Now let's begin the conversation. Whether by law or interpretation, eligibility for public office is often determined by the provision of the Constitution. In a recent development, a former president of the Court of Appeal, Justice Isa Salami, has said that former President Goodluck Jonathan is not eligible to contest the 2027 presidential election. According to him, former President Jonathan cannot be the nation's president beyond the constitutional limit of 2 terms, which amounts to 8 years. All right, BK, so good to have you join us from Abuja studios. So let's look at this conversation, the legal argument about the eligibility of former President Goodluck Jonathan and the prevailing judicial interpretation. But looking at all of these comments, why do you think Justice Salami is of the view that former President Jonathan is not qualified to contest in 2027?
The former president of the Court of Appeal is very conversant with our laws. I hope you can hear me, Benga.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yes. So he is very conversant with our laws as a former president of the Court of Appeal. And as far as is concerned, subsection 3 of section 137 of the 1999 Constitution, as amended, does not give the president, the former president, the power to contest for the presidency beyond 2 terms. Beyond 2 terms. And as far as is concerned, that alteration that was made to the Constitution in 2018 takes retroactive effect, which means that it takes effect from the year 1999 when that Constitution itself was given life. So those who are arguing that, that law was amended in 2018, therefore it does not stop Jonathan from contesting, Justice Salami is telling them that, look, when it comes to the alteration of the Constitution, it takes effect from the date that Constitution itself was born. So it's not, you cannot say that, okay, if there's an alteration to the Constitution today, October 31st, 2025, that it begins to take effect from tomorrow. No, we're saying that an alteration to the Constitution has retroactive effect, which means that it takes effect from the year 1999. Yeah, so and let me quote him. It is right that an amendment to an enactment relates back to the date the principal enactment came into force. In other words, the date for the commencement of the 4th Alteration Act number 16 of 2018 is the date the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria itself came into force. He then went on to say, in an event of his winning the election, he will be conveniently removed by the Court of Appeal in an election petition to that court, which removal will be affirmed by the Supreme Court on the ground that his total terms will have exceeded the 8 years maximum tenure. So that is the point that Justice Salami is making. And I can understand why Jonathan, former President Jonathan, is taking his time. He's consulting and consulting so that at the end of the day, his effort does not come to nothing. Yes. So if in the fullness of time, his lawyers tell him, President Jonathan, you cannot run in this election, he's not going to listen to the very nostalgic supporters of his who continue to say, during this time, Nigeria was an El Dorado, Nigeria was had so much prosperity, therefore, it is the best thing that we can have at this time. I love President Jonathan as an individual, but I align with those who know the law and who are saying that an amendment to the Constitution usually takes retroactive effect. It's not like an electoral act, for example, or the Constitution. Okay. Once you alter it, it takes effect from the date that Constitution was born.
Yes.
So and we have told some people before now who did not agree. Somebody even posted on Facebook that if Jonathan contests the election by 12 noon, the result will have shown that he has won the election. How they got to that point, I really do not understand.
Okay, Kolawole Johnson, how do you weigh in here? Talking about the issue of retroactively, because talk to me first. How do you weigh in here before I ask you my next question?
Yeah, I didn't go to the law school. I was not trained as a lawyer. But I'm trained as I'm trained in public policy. And you do a bit of law. I'm also trained as a political scientist. And of course, I didn't fail in that class. So this I think is not a subject matter that I will see from the angle of law alone. I also see that Emmanuel contested the election. Emmanuel was in office and he lost. So I don't know what we're talking about. Is it that those things we were talking about there, is it that we are realizing that he did better than what we were saying then? Anyway, let's leave that aside. So if you're talking about the law, how do I weigh on what Justice Salami said? I would say what he said is simple. He said, "Come, we all agree that the law forbids anyone to stay beyond office." So he said that it seems that is not in contention, and I think by the argument you heard across board, that is not in contention. What is in contention is the fact that despite this law, the person of Jonathan can still contest. Why? Not because the law is not in place, but because they felt that before this law came into effect, he had already done a part of what should have held him by the virtue of this law. But the justice is saying that, in this case here, he said the Constitution only envisages that when it comes to criminal matter, of course, you can't interpret retroactively. But he said this is a civil matter, and I think you should listen to a former justice of that status. I don't think he will be blabbing. I don't also think he will come out and put his integrity on the line, for what reason exactly. So if we're running commentaries, number one, not just for commentary's sake, I don't think he's doing that to attract some attention. I think he's doing that to also enrich our public discourse on this important, subject matter. So if he's bringing his view into it and saying clearly that by the virtue of the law, that if Jonathan eventually contests the election and wins, that he will be removed by the appeal court. And he said it will also, he said that same decision, of course, will be stamped by the Supreme Court. And he quoted the law. He has the experience. He's sitting, he's talking to you as having the experience of a judge, not a lawyer anyway, who wants his money at all costs, or who wants to, because you don't contest election in Nigeria without enriching some people. But by the way, Jonathan has not even come out to say, I will contest the election. I'm aware that he said sometimes ago that there is nothing he's looking for. I'm also aware that the wife said there is nothing they forgot in Aso Rock that they are coming to me. So why are we even hitting our head on the wall, on something that may not even happen? Incidentally, it's about the only person that you can say this part of the law, would apply to when it comes to the presidency. Aside from him, there's no other person right now in Nigeria that can lay claim to this. So by and large, I don't think I want to hit my head, off so much on this, because I do not think Jonathan will want to run for the election. Which party will feature him? Is it PDP? That's about the only party. See, take my word for it. ADC will not feature him. that is practically impossible. Or the coalition, whether they will still use ADC or another party, they won't put Jonathan on the ballot because there is the frontliner, there is the forerunner, the frontman who believes, even in PDP, that it was his birthright to get, the party's ticket. I remember when they asked him that, will he get the party's ticket? He said, his answer was very simple. He said, have I ever failed to get the ticket? And you think he will not leave the ticket and surrender to Jonathan, knowing fully well that within the next 4 years, a lot of things will change, in the orbit, and he's not likely to be in that place again to get a ticket of the party. Quite a number of younger folks will also rise up. So I do not think Jonathan should even be. For me, I'm not really, having that as what I should, bother about the permutations of 2027 election. Largely, I think it is just for the academic exercise. Interpret the law, let it sit down there. I don't think it will be beyond that. Jonathan would not be on the ballot.
All right, then, let's move straight to our next conversation. Internal democracy remains the lifeblood of any political party, and when members feel shut out of due process, conflicts are almost inevitable. Former Jigawa State Governor Salami has approached